What's up, YouTubers? I've been meaning to make a video on the pitfalls of going offshore. Mainly not really going offshore, but the pitfalls of second passports, misunderstandings, and just a different way to look at things. And specifically, in years past, I made videos on how, from my understanding and from the people I know, from law firms to just various people I know, who I'm pretty sure don't know each other. But anyways, there's been a lot said about the passport program in Panama. There's a residency program you can obtain by starting a business, and I think you have to deposit $5,000 or $6,000 and start a business, and you can obtain residency, and that's okay, no problems there. But the controversy comes in when I say, and other people say, you're not very likely to get a passport. The reason I bring this up is because of Nomad Capitalist. He's a bit stiff, but I follow his stuff. And to me, he's one of the better dudes for like how the offshore world really works if you're going to go towards a more mainstream, person to follow. Anyways, he had said in a previous video, like, you can get residency in Panama, but probably you're not going to get a passport. Anyways, here's an article he wrote, I don't know when, but it says how to get Paraguay residency and citizenship in 2021. He claims this is written, well, I shouldn't say he claims, he says he's coming in from Indonesia. Anyways, I won't paraphrase everything here, but here's him writing this article. I'm just going to read it out loud. The commonly held belief is that Paraguay is also one of the fastest way to get citizenship. Not quite true, but anyways, I'll go on. On paper, and in some instances this may be true, technically you could be a naturalized citizen of Paraguay in 3 years. And I think that's true if you're a very wealthy citizen of another country and they really want you there. That's my opinion. Now here we go. He's talking about some of the challenges. Now I'm going to quote for him again. In my experience, people who are attracted to the fastest way of citizenship are often looking for the easiest way to achieve it all. And one of the things that I've learned via my success and failures is that people look for fast and easy. And as if that wasn't too much to ask for, they also want it cheap. That's typically, this Paraguay really typically applies to Americans or North Americans. I don't know if I'd want to include Canadians in there, but generally speaking, Americans, that's what they want. And they expect to get it, and they want it to go swimmingly well, which it never does. Anyways, I'm going to keep quoting from Nomad Capitalist. As I keep telling people, when it comes to passports, you can't have it fast, easy, and cheap. I think he's right. One of the things that people like about Paraguay is that you don't have to live there. You only have to live in the country just 1 day a year. That's 100% true for residency. But as you'll see later, there's some caveats to that. But if all you want is legal residency, you really can't beat Paraguay, assuming you want to be in the South American region. However, you've got to understand that in Latin American countries, what is written in the letter of the law may not always follow in due process. What is said to be possible is not necessarily possible. That's true. I'll continue. Panama, and here's where he talks about Panama. He's actually talked about this in videos too. And he's not just said this about Panama, but other countries as well, like Ecuador. Panama is another example of how this kind of conflict can have an impact on naturalization. I have friends who have been actually living in the country for over 15 years that still do not have their citizenship. Once again, what is said to be possible and what is actually possible are not always consistent across Latin American countries. I'm going to stop there. That is so true. I know people who've lived in Ecuador probably 20 years, possibly 20 years. But they followed everything to a T. That's typically the American way, to follow everything to a T. They met the qualifications, they more than met the qualifications to try to get a second passport in Ecuador. And that was their whole goal. That's why they got so pissed off when they applied for it and they didn't get it. Anyways, that was like years and years ago when I heard about this guy. I mean, he more than qualified to live there. He actually lived there every single day of the year, met all the qualifications, and then when he applied for it, they didn't give it to him. He was seriously pissed off. He was an older gentleman, so he didn't really want to move and go somewhere else and try somewhere else again. But he did that for his kid, or for future generations as he passed on his wealth. He wanted to help his family to be able to come to Ecuador. pass on his wealth quietly and, possibly offer them a way into citizenship too. So he was very disappointed. Anyways, I'm going to continue with this article that Nomad Capitalist writes. The fact that the law states you can apply for citizenship after 3 years in Paraguay, 5 in Panama, doesn't guarantee you anything. It means you can apply and that they must consider your application. But beyond that, nothing is certain. True. So let's clear it up. The idea that you can head down to Paraguay and just live there for a couple of days each year and then get permanent residency after 3 is misleading. I know so many people, they're planning to do that. They have no interest in living there. They don't live there. They just come in there every once in a while. I'm not sure what's going to happen since I know them personally. I may ask them about it and they may tell me, and I don't know if I'll tell anyone here, but like I often say, sometimes when people get passports in Paraguay, they don't really want to talk about it. And there's a reason for that, but I don't want to mention it here. But you could really understand when other people are not getting it, then you get yours. You want to keep quiet about it. Plus, you're just happy that you got what you wanted. You just want to continue on with your life, and you want to keep a low profile. Like Retire Cheap Asia says, JC, there's always an option, and, he's right about not just living in Thailand, but it's always an option anywhere in the world. Even when it comes to passports and residencies, there's always an option. Even in Thailand, you can get some unusual residencies people are not aware of. I'm going to continue on with what Nomad Capitalist is saying. It has happened in the past, and I know of at least 2 people personally that have achieved this with no problems. However, I know a lot more people who have been lured in with the 3-pronged promise, fast, easy, and cheap, who are stuck in some bureaucratic limbo still waiting for residency, not making the most of the residency that they do have. I totally agree. Anyways, he continues on with change your mindset. That's another thing. He's a stiff dude, but he comes across that way. But anyways, I agree. Change your mindset if you can. My first piece of advice to people tempted with the same lure is to look at changing your mindset. It's simple when you think about it. Things that are worth getting are worth putting effort into. 0 equals 0. That's true. I continue with Nomad Capitalist. These people that I'm talking about have just gone down to Paraguay and bumbled around getting some half-cocked lawyer to deal with it on their behalf. That's also true. Fixers, they get the wrong fixers who cut corners, etc., etc. That's my comment. The process doesn't take much time, almost 0 effort, and is, of course, cheap. Yeah, it's true. You come down there, basically $5K, a police check, and I do believe has to be FBI check now, and I do also believe you have to get all that translated in Spanish, but you also have to bring a birth certificate. I believe you have to bring a birth certificate. The process doesn't take much time, almost 0 effort, and of course it's cheap. When it hasn't ended up the way they anticipated, they don't get residency, then their mindset has already determined how they perceive this. I didn't really need that passport, and so on. And sometimes, this is my comment, sometimes they get really pissed off about shit. They talk about how they got schemed and scammed and all that because of their mindset. The truth is that too many people believe Paraguay is such an easy way to get a second passport, and that it's like a scam to them, a way to get one over the system, which is what makes it worth the gamble, just to see if they can get one. I would just say if you get the residency and have a legal place to live for the rest of your life, or at least 10 years, I think they're 10 years there, is great. And then it's, do you really need it? I'm continuing with Nomad Capitalist in his article. If you don't really need or want a second passport, that's something too. I think I agree with, again, my comments. Here, I'll continue. Then I've got some more advice for you. Don't waste your time. What would be the point of getting something that you don't know how or intend to use? I agree. Like if you just need really discretionary banking, you don't really need a second passport. I'm such a bonehead. It took me a long time to really understand that. I really took me a long time to realize if you just want discrete banking, there's cheaper and easier ways to do it. Anyhow, I continue with the article Nomad Capitalist wrote. I see this a lot with people looking for a second passport in Paraguay, so much so that Paraguay residency has become code word for stuff that nobody needs or knows what to do with. So I'll say it again. If you don't need or want a second passport, then don't waste your time. Yeah, there's a lot of shit you can do with a residency, which I'm going to go into after I get done with this article. Anyways, I'm going to continue on down. He talks about poor legal services in Paraguay. That could be true of most of Central and South America, but it depends. And that's why I keep saying it's so important to get the right relationships in Latin America, and that takes time. Oftentimes it takes years to build up trust and relationships to know who to trust and who you should be building up relationships with. That is why if you can find kind of a way in, I hate to say a coyote, but someone who knows the system, like a coyote knows how to bring people to the States or whatever, you need a coyote to help you with Latin America, because they can make things so much easier and faster. And they have a trust built in for 20 or 30 years because they've lived there. They know the right people. So you'll get plugged in. So then you'll have way easier time to get your residency and second passport if it's appropriate for your situation. Anyways, he just comments on the poor situation from the Dominican Republic to Panama, and not just Paraguay. I would even add Puerto Rico, but we're not really talking about Puerto Rico. But because I have boyhood friends, I just know a lot of people. Well, I don't know a lot. I know some people in Puerto Rico, and I don't know why I haven't visited there yet. But anyways, and it said it can be. I'll continue on. It can be hard to find a good lawyer at the best of times, but even harder in Latin America. That is true. Again, that's why I suggest a coyote to help guide you to these places. It's not just about lawyers, but if you want to integrate yourself in societies that's not what you were born into, they can be very, very important. Anyways, I won't go too much more into this, but here's another little hint. Watch out for passport scams. What was that lady's name? I can't remember her name, but she had a German last name. She got a lot of people in a lot of trouble. And the upshot is, I think the FBI made some comments about her and about allegedly trying to go after her for some reason. But it turns out she did the appropriate things, and when things quieted down, nothing really did happen to her, as far as I remember. And then, he talks about he gets literally thousands of emails from India and Pakistan, people trying to get second or third passports cheap. I get one or two, but I do get them from time to time. I even get a few from South Africa. And because of my family connections in the past, I try to steer them towards either Guatemala or Paraguay. And usually they end up going for Paraguay because they come from more of I hate to say German culture, but a Dutch culture where they're more into agriculture and farming and a slower pace of lifestyle. And they're both appropriate. Like Guatemala is just colder. You have all the climates here, but there's a lot more choice for a cold climate, which I like. And they want more of a hot climate and grow stuff in a hot climate. I mean, to each their own, but anyways. Then eventually he talks about, fake passports and how the FBI gets involved, Then he talks about Uruguay and stuff like that. Then he talks about why get Paraguay citizenship. Well, here we go. I'll start quoting from this again. Why do you want a passport in the first place? Are you considering Paraguay because you want visa-free travel to Russia? Wouldn't you just prefer to pop your passport in the post and pay a couple $100 to get that visa? Do you want visa-free access to UK, Ireland, EU? That's definitely valuable, but why pursue Paraguay passport for the second one? That could be possible. We come back to mantra, fast, easy, cheap, and he goes into it. Here's something that's kind of interesting, or cute, I would say. It's like citizenship by descent. This is so true. If you know anyone with Italian heritage, this is so true. I've got an Italian friend who, in the time it's taken him to get his Italian passport, 3 years, I've gotten multiple passports. If the specific country is important to you for residency purposes, then fine. But if your end goal is to get a second passport, you've got to consider your best options. Anyways, he's just saying, see the bigger picture and all that. Here's some of his challenges with Paraguay. It's taking longer than ever before to get your application looked at. No more applications are being denied. No reasons or limited information are being rejected. That's just as true of Ecuador. Immigration lawyers aren't providing much help. The mythical, fast, easy, and cheap. Now, I want to make my own points on that. This is partly true because so many North Americans are going in. And when too many North American people from North America or the United States go into a country, they ruin it for everyone else. And that's just as true of Ecuador. It's just as true of Costa Rica. I actually know a Guatemalan who owns property there. He's having some challenges too. He's in the U.S., so his challenges are even worse. He fell for the lure of Costa Rica, and he wishes he would have just invested in the own country he grew up in. anyways, he's got that challenge from the U.S. But my point is, if a lot of Americans and Europeans go to a place, they can change the whole character of a place, and it won't be easy to get what you want. It's why I'll oftentimes suggest, you know, it depends what you want, but Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua. Now, I don't suggest you go to Nicaragua necessarily for investment or even a passport, but it is an option depending on what you're looking for. And then he talks about renouncing, which I don't think most people should do. And then he points out blah, blah, blah. It's not worth it. Anyways, that's all I want to say about that. I agree. He's made some videos on how it's very difficult to get if you get residency in Panama. He said that many times, and he's got a lot of pushback. People are really pissed off about that. But I think he's right. A lot of people are going to be disappointed because when they apply for their passport in Panama after the 5 years is run out, they're gonna be sorely disappointed because I think 80% will be denied. I even think it'll be higher, but you know, I don't know. Here's another article he wrote. Why get second residency in Paraguay? You can apply for Paraguay citizenship after 3 years. It's pretty inexpensive and straightforward. There are no restrictions on your nationality. Here's one. I think anyone would be satisfied or would like 5,000 USD. That's all you need to deposit. You do not need to relocate to Paraguay to maintain residency. Dual citizenship is allowed. Paraguay speaks Spanish, which is, he claims, easy to learn. Not for me, ain't it? But here he's got a little graphic. It's really beautiful. Visa-free countries, 123. Passport ranking, 29th. Can visit Europe. Yeah, most Latin countries with a Latin American passport, you can go visa-free to most of Europe. I'm speaking of Western Europe. I'm not talking about Eastern Europe. I mean, there's always exceptions, but in general, you can go to the UK, France, but especially you can go to Spain. And then under the old rules before COVID happened, you could just disappear and go anywhere in Western Europe. That's kind of changed with COVID, but that may go back to where it used to be. But now we're in such new times that I don't know if that's true as much anymore. Here's how it works. Time to citizenship 3 years in theory. Economic, no. Just have to put in 5,000 after your application is okay. You can take it out. Physical presence minimal. Now, here's where the rubber meets the road. You need to be in the country 183 days a year in Paraguay for your 3-year period to even be considered. Plus, it's helpful if you have a profession. I mean, I'm not going to quote everything, but just from people I know, if you work there as a professional, that helps even more. Helps even more if you learn Spanish. And it helps even more if you're married to a local. And it helps even more if you have a business there and you're actually running the business. Then you really increase your odds because you're part of the community. You're building up trust in the community. You're just part of the community. You're not just there one day a year just for the residency. But if that's all you want, now here's the thing. I'm not sure if he mentions it here. Oh yeah, here. Why Paraguay? He points out there's a lot of Germans. True, that's true. Once you obtain permanent residence, I'm quoting from the article, in Paraguay, you have the right to live, work there for life. Okay, I did not know that. I thought it was 10 years. You will also enjoy other benefits within South America and Mercosur region. Now, here's where I personally think a residency could be for you if you want to be in South America. And even if you don't get a passport, as long as the old traditions and customs are continuing, which we don't know because of COVID. But I mean, who knows? Anyways. Okay, he didn't mention the Mercosur countries. I forget which ones they are, but you can go to Peru, I believe. You can go to Brazil, I believe. I think you go to Argentina, Bolivia, all without a passport. You just have to have your local ID. Now, why do I mention that? Because my lifestyle would be more of the perpetual tourist lifestyle, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more here. But if you want to go from those regions with your local ID, you can. You don't have to live there. Taxes are low there in Paraguay if you happen to earn income there or declare anything there. It used to be tax-free, but now that's all changed. And let's see, here we go. Paraguay has a territorial tax, which means that only income and capital gains earned in Paraguay are taxed at an only rate of 10%. There's no inheritance estate tax, but then you can set up an SA corporation and pass the shares on to your heirs if that's a concern. So I mean, they're not sophisticated there, so you can do a lot of simple things to escape that. But again, they don't even have those taxes. And then he points out you can live on there for $1,000, $1,500. But because of the Mercosur countries, you can travel to southern Brazil. You can travel to like Argentina, which is always a basket case. It seems like for most of my adult life, it's been a basket case. But for cultural reasons, you may want to go there. And if you're living the perpetual tourist lifestyle, you're just traveling there for 2 or 3 months of the year, and you have a way to access money there, like you have Bitcoin or whatever, you can get a better exchange rate because of all that nonsense going on in Argentina. But my point is, if you want like a local South American residency that's easy to get, and you want to travel between those countries and not live there all the time, you just need the residence card. Now, again, it's South America. You're in the middle of nowhere, so flying anywhere like Europe or whatever, or North America or Asia is going to be expensive. But if you just want to, melt into the woodwork there, that's an excellent option. Even if you don't get the passport, if you melt into the local woodwork there and you enjoy living in Paraguay and you spend the time, you get married, start a business, you probably can eventually get a passport, just not right away. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say. There's all this stuff about getting these second passports and how easy it is. It's not always the case. Not always the case at all. And I just wanted to point out, even though he's a bit stiff, the nomad capitalist guy, he kind of understands that. Now, I'm not recommending or not recommending a service. I've never availed myself of the services. But he seems to understand some basic things. I just think because he's an American, he's a bit stiff, a bit of a Boy Scout. There's certain things he's probably not going to tell you, or he might tell you if you build up trust with him. But he'll tell you the kind of the Boy Scout way of doing things, which is fine. I'm not against that. I'm just pointing that out. If you're a North American, you have to realize a fellow American's not going to tell you certain things because he's actually renounced, if I remember right. Nomad Cap was actually renounced. But I might be wrong in that. But anyways, so who knows? Maybe I'm totally dead wrong. He'll tell you what's up no matter what. I don't know. Anyways, this video is getting long, and I want to bring up one more thing. Vagabond Buda. Actually, we're at Vagabond Awake. I was telling you guys about this young man before. Vagabond Awake, his website is vagabondbuda.com. This is a gentleman I was talking about because he sometimes gets questions in reference to why he doesn't settle down at 60 years old, why he doesn't live in one country. Anyways, you can see he has an Asian girlfriend. She's a former model. And just incidentally, she's from Malaysia, which I know some stuff about because one of my family members is married to an Asian person. But anyways, she's a former model. You should check out the video where her, like, she's modeling clothes. It's very fascinating. I'm not into that lifestyle. Well, I have a story about that, but it was when I was a kid. I don't want to get into it now. But anyways, I like their work. I really like their work. But he doesn't call himself a perpetual tourist. But he had some business issues in the 2008 crash, and he had to readjust his lifestyle to reflect kind of that. And anyways, he decided to go out and travel the world, and he basically doesn't live that long in one country. He has the perpetual tourist type lifestyle, and he has a really good website if you want to check that out. And he talks about dating and mating, and he talks about all that stuff, residency, banking. Basically, his point is too many people just jump in. They'll get a residency somewhere, and then it turns out they don't like it. They'll bank somewhere, and then it turns out they don't like the banking. They'll buy a house somewhere where they don't even want to live, and then they find out they can maybe get 50 cents on the dollar if they're lucky. He addresses real issues, and he addresses issues why some people can live on $600, $700, $800 a month in these countries, and some people can, or why some people can live on $1,500 to $2,000 and really live well and enjoy it, and why again other people, even if they have $5,000 or $10,000, but they can spend on there, they still ain't gonna enjoy it. He has one of those sites that explains these things way better than I on why some people can manage to live overseas and others can't. It's very fascinating. But anyways, since he does talk about mating and dating and why he does not get married, and I was going to mention his girlfriend's from Malaysia. She can travel to most countries he can visa free, which I did not know, but I'm not surprised. But that's the thing I get asked constantly about women in the Philippines or in certain parts of Latin America and travel. And oftentimes they don't really want to travel with you because they'll miss their family. His situation is different. She worked overseas as a model and she's used to living in other countries, so she kind of likes that lifestyle. But in my experience, it's hard to find a woman that wants to travel with you. And then too, like when I used to live in the Philippines, like, it's hard for them to even leave the country. Wait till you go there and you find out that, you know, you bought your ticket for your girlfriend or your wife, and they won't let you leave the country because they're worried about human trafficking. I mean, just wait till you run into that. You just watch videos on people that's happened to. But anyways, he gives some good observations like why he doesn't stop traveling the world, and he has a pretty balanced view of Asia, Latin America, and the undeveloped part and the developed part. He actually is partial to the undeveloped part, which is like me. I like that. I don't care for this fully developed, you know, air-conditioned type, American-type experience, but cheaper. He likes more, you know, the rough and tumble dirt roads and stuff like that. I kind of like that too, but if you're looking for a channel and you're not aware, check out Vagabond Awake. He and his girlfriend travel the world. They have a lot of cost of living reports and a lot of reports on how to live and what problems you encounter. All that kind of stuff. Talks about how to, what's interesting, he talks about how he gets really cheap rentals on Airbnb and other ways. Basically what it comes down, he negotiates, which most people never do. I've commented on that in the past. And then there's his, you know, you can see pictures. He's very clever when it comes to marketing. He has his girlfriend pose in a lot of these thumbnails. And he also even talks about how you can, over a 6-month to 2-year period, really build up an online income. And he's the first person I've come across who's realistic about the way it really works, how hard it is and stuff like that. He's very astute observations on stuff like that. Of course, you'd have to watch a lot of his videos because I don't know which one it'd be in. Anyways, there's one, the hippie nude beach. There's Bohemia. That's my favorite beer right there. I think it's Bohemia. It's the red one. Basically the beer, the kind of beer you'd get in Austria. Anyways, you can see he has a lot of views on how to live on $800, $900, $1,200, $1,500 a month. I don't care for the beaches as much, but he spends a lot of time in beaches in the Philippines and, you know, Mexico and Ecuador. He's been all over. And he even has, like, here's a single mom. He's kind of guest videos from other YouTube bloggers and influencers. Anyways, it's kind of a spiritual. He's kind of a spiritual guy. You might want to check him out. You might not be interested. His hobby course is $100. That's very, very fascinating. Very fascinating. He tells you why to really buy a course that's really worthwhile costs about $5,000. He talks about the $200, $300, $400, $500 courses and why they're good, but also they give you too much stuff that's not really important. They don't emphasize the stuff that's important. That's a very astute observation. Anyways, I've been digging into his channel lately, and so like for the viewers who are interested in like a perpetual tourist lifestyle, I know it comes at it kind of from a spiritual way, but I actually appreciate that. But it shows you if you want a really simple life, you can live many places in Latin America and Asia for not a lot of money. But he also points out if you can go native and handle going native, you can live much cheaper. He just says he sometimes doesn't talk about it as much because he recognizes most Americans can't do that. And he's not even suggesting you should just, if that's what you want, that's an option or a possibility. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this video up. He has really awesome videos, as you can see, people teaching English and working their way around the world. I haven't been in the Philippines in a long time, but he has a lot of coverage on the Philippines, a lot of coverage in South America, Central America, stuff like that. He compares Southeast Asia to Latin America, and he's in good shape too. He has videos on how to keep in shape on the road, stuff like that. Other influencers don't talk about, like, you know, how to stay in shape when you're living in other countries. And then he talks about why he self-insures, stuff like that, and you know the pros and cons of that. Because there are insurance policies both in Latin America and in Asia that can cover you in other parts of Latin America or even other parts of the world. They're just not always cheap or cover everything. What I like is he covers internet dating tips for expats and dating overseas and how it's so different than the West. It's very, very different from the West. He points out, like, he had some viewer question where, like, I'm lonely, I don't have nothing to do, all I'm doing is drinking and becoming an alcoholic. And he just says, well, maybe get a lover, study history. It's just stuff like that you would think people would be, well, would know. But all things you can do, not very hard overseas. Not very hard. You can basically have a cool adventure if you want. What's exciting to me is he's older than me, but he's still having the time of his life and really enjoying things. And you could just tell he's just enjoying life immensely. You know, when you think about $1,500, that's just your average Social Security check. And he had to basically not completely start over, but in the 2008, if you watch his beginning video, you know, his original, not his, I forget what you call it, but how he came to be on YouTube and all that. The crash affected him immensely. He wasn't going to have the retirement in the U.S. he thought. So he just changed his outlook and changed his attitude. Started visiting more and more countries and decided, wow, you can live fantastic on $1,500 to $2,000 a month. And he found out you can actually live quite a bit less than that if that's all you have. It's just a matter of perspective and traveling and seeing things and blending into, integrating yourself into the local economy and the local culture, which is very difficult for Americans to do. Europeans seem to do it better than us. But for us North Americans, we seem to insulate ourselves and pay too much for things and don't adjust. Anyways, he's from the United States, so he's got good perspectives on that too. Anyways, he has a lot of videos. He's got a spiritual channel. I won't get into that because it's probably not for most people, but if you get up here and see his data, you can follow him, his various channels, and he has a website, vagabondbuda.com. Anyways, I'm going to upload this video, wait for the comments. All I can say is leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, but if you have an interesting way of living that's different than other people, leave a comment. Thank you.